town you never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
All right. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, that's my best. That's my best impression
I like
right there.
I like that.
You know, see, I'm mixing it up these days.
Yeah, getting good.
Yeah.
So we, I don't know what order we'll release in, but I had a conversation with the coach, Johnston Hobbs, and we wanted to get a little more into his background and how he came up and how he got into this and so on and so forth, right?
Well, we've been kicking this idea around. It was originally your idea. Let's do an episode and label it or call it, name it, what is coaching? Because there's so many things that go into it now. And like even when I was growing up, you schedule a handful of practices, then you got your 10, 12 games, and then that's it until next season rolls around. And now the pressure that's put on the coaches, the expectations, and it doesn't matter if it's T-ball, collegiate ball, volleyball, like there's just so much more that goes into it that I don't know if all folks out there can really wrap their mind around or are aware of it. You know what I mean? Like it's just changed so much. And so I thought that was a great idea. And I thought we had an opportunity here where we have an established coach, Johnston Hobbs of the Corn Belt League, Collegiate Baseball Development League here in Omaha. Let's take a stab at it here.
There's going to be a bunch of people listening to this from like all over the country. We have some people streaming in from around the world.
Yeah.
That they're going to be like, of course, the place in Nebraska calls it the Corn Belt League.
I know it.
It really went out on the limb with that one.
Yeah.
Right. You got to wear it. You know, like you got to be comfortable in your own skin. And I thought that's where Commissioner Joe Siwa, like, you know what? Good on you. Tip of the cap.
Right.
How long has this league been around?
6 years.
And you've been a part of it?
4 years.
Okay. All right.
So what I want to ask to begin with, anytime people are having this conversation, it's like when they're talking to someone like you, it's coach. You know, it's just like if you're talking to a doctor, it's like doctor. You know, you're always called coach. Does everyone call you coach? And do you like that? Or how's that feel?
I kind of have an old school approach to baseball, but you have to evolve. And in order to be able to communicate with this new generation for the past 10 years has been changing a lot. I don't mind not being called coach. I do not like being called skip. That's kind of the thing in baseball, skipper.
Yeah.
I think a kid's skipping down the street or something when you say that.
Right.
Or my old teammates, most of who weren't from the United States, couldn't say Johnston. So they would keep messing up Johnston and this and that, and so they just took the first two letters of my first name, Joe, and the last two of my last name, or first two of my last name, so they call me Joho instead of Hojo, which was Howard Johnson for the Mets. So now everybody just calls me Joho or Hobbs. My old coaches calls me Hobbsy. I've been called other things, which we won't say by players and other coaches.
We can. We got that explicit sticker on. It's okay.
Right.
Andy, what do you call him when you're announcing?
Coach Hobbs.
Okay.
Yeah, Coach Hobbs.
And I'm fine with that.
But you don't demand
No.
your players to say that. So we have children that play, and some coaches are like, you refer to me as coach.
You know, I am a firm believer of I expect to be respected because of my experience and what I'm doing, but I'm not going to demand it.
Okay.
I don't want it under any other circumstance besides a genuine one.
I like that.
Yeah. So you know, if you're comfortable calling me Joho, if you want to call me coach, if Hobbsy, I get called so many different things in the baseball industry that it's kind of cool, really.
Yeah.
So we actually have a connection that really goes back, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but you played for the University of Indiana, right?
Indiana University.
Indiana.
Yes.
Oh my God! Whoops! Yeah. Whoa! I don't let me do that again.
About to break out some jiu-jitsu in this place.
But way back in the day, Bellevue West did, and they still do, high school, when they first built that nice new high school. What is that, 25, 30 years ago now?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it had all those brand new rubber gyms, you know?
Yeah.
And so they would bring in big time camps year round. And I went to one of their baseball camps, and your coach was there.
Bob Morgan.
And he was throwing me pitches, and I was sending some lasers down the first baseline. I bat left-handed. And he's like, you know what? You can stay in here. I'll let you hit a few more. I'll let you hit a few more. You're doing so well. You're doing what I'm telling you to. And right after he said that, and he threw me that extra pitch, I sent one right back at him. And he goes, "Get the hell out of here!"
Yeah, or his favorite is "Get off me."
Yeah, get off! You're out of here. Yeah. I thought he was joking. I stood in there. He goes, "No, I mean it. Get out of here."
Oh, he was kind of like the Bobby Knight of baseball. You know what I mean? But people don't really know Bobby Knight. Being an Indiana guy, and in athletics, we knew him personally. But Coach was, it was almost like the military. Like if he was barking at you, and he was a barker, he was the old school guy, like get in your face, there was a message in there. So if you survived that, you learned how to read his language. Mm-hmm. And Coach Morgan has taught me so much about baseball. I have absolutely nothing but praise for that guy because he has helped me so much. For one thing, in mental toughness, because if I can handle him giving me the message the way he gives it to me, then there's not another person on a team out there that can get in my head.
Sure.
So I needed that kind of structure, but I've done a lot of clinics with him, as a coach now that I'm of age to coach. And it's an absolute comedy show. Like we should, and Sonny played for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sonny was my former assistant who coaches the Black Sox. He was at the College of Worcester in Ohio, and that was Coach Morgan's first coaching job. And he was only, just a little bit older than Sonny.
Yeah.
And, Sonny's pretty old, man. His all-star team was
Sonny
Moses, and, his first job was waiter at the Last Supper.
There we go. You guys were asking, and Sonny's a great guy, fun coach.
Oh, he is.
He coached down in Puerto Rico, too, with you, right?
He was my assistant down in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
He was my assistant in Glens Falls, too. And we had a great time together because we have a lot of the same beliefs. But we just have different ways of putting it out there. Mm-hmm. And I really wish you guys could mic us up sometime or have some reality show. It'd be comical.
That'd probably be cool.
Yeah. Just in college.
A little live stream.
Hear the banter and the chatter.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great segue then kind of with the crux of what I want to get into is coaching, kind of what it was and what it has turned into or what it has to be now. And it's not just a communication deal. I feel the expectations have really changed as well.
Yeah, it has. There's a lot of pressure now on coaches because there's so much pressure on athletes. I don't know where in society we've put you're only successful if you make $42 million or something like that. Kids seem to think, and I run into this all the time, we've had kids in leagues that, hey, if this training's expensive and then it must be good, and that's not the case. And a lot of coaches have pressure too because they've got the wrong agenda. You got a lot of coaches that's just winning. Because if I win, I'm going to get Adidas. Or if and when I was coaching in college and recruiting, I remember a couple of kids asking me, well, who sponsors your school? And that's when I hang up because I know they're not about the program. They're about themselves. So that works its way into the coach because if the star players aren't happy these days, coach is gone.
Yeah.
Very rarely, and you see it in college all the time.
Well, and I've seen this real quick on the other side too, where winning really takes, or just being successful takes a back seat to getting that kid his swings, getting that kid his pitches, his innings pitched, or his, shots attempted in basketball. Like it's all about where a coach almost turns into an agent almost, especially in the AAU type, club ball type stuff.
That's when you get more into management, This is why even if I decide to get into the professional ranks of baseball, I want to be a development guy. I don't want to be a manager. Mm-hmm. That's putting this kid here because you have to, or the front office says you have to, or Sabermetrics says you have to. You're right. That's what's going on these days. And for someone that came up so long ago like me and like Sonny, it's tough to watch because we're still involved in it. And I would have never guessed in my lifetime I would see the drastic changes that I see now with how some of the athletes even act or feel like they can act. And some of the coaches, too, just some of the dumb things some of these coaches do is ridiculous.
Yeah. I thought, recently a kid for Tennessee popped off to the umpire and got tossed. I'm like, good. Yeah. You shouldn't be able to say that and think you can say it. You could read his lips. I mean, F-bomb after F-bomb.
Really?
On the field right after he got K'd up. And good on the umpire. And that was a big uproar on social media. It's like, I can't believe you tossed that kid. He's one of the best batters.
Who cares?
Yeah. don't conduct yourself like that.
Yeah.
But he's not a good kid. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know him personally, but he wasn't in that instance.
Yeah.
And, we had talked earlier, I said a fish rots from the head. The head coach allows that.
Sure.
Like if you watch Tennessee, they pop off every one of them. And even the head coach, he doesn't say a word unless it's popping off. And last year at the College World Series, I was right near where he and the Texas coach were going at. I heard the things he said. And for me, I mean, I'm not a judge of anybody's character. I don't have the right to do that. I would think I was classless if I'd said some of the things that I heard. And then if you watch after that game when they lost to Notre Dame, it looks like he was popping off at the team. It wasn't like, hey, guys, we had a great season. It was more like, you suck, you didn't get it done. You didn't, and that's an ego.
Yeah.
You got to wonder, like, after the fact, when they're able to see themselves, in those replays and so on and so forth, how they feel about it. And does that really hit home, or are they just like, nah, man, that's just, I did what I needed to do?
When I was his age and I was first in college coaching, it's my way, it's this, and I'm going to drive it hard. And I look back at that now, and I'm almost embarrassed by it. He probably will be later down the road.
Yeah.
But, he's getting paid very handsomely at a school that's paying him that way, and they're going to let him get away with it.
And they're expecting results.
And the pitching coach was just as bad. Then he came out and popped off.
Yeah, well, is that more? Are they moving more into that management side where, look, you're getting paid, or you're getting the scholarship money, and you're getting this money? It's not under the table anymore.
Right.
It's out in the open now. But now there's an expectation. So we have to pitch you for 5 innings. You better produce. And does it give the coach more of a rope or a leeway to do that?
No, because one thing about, first of all, everybody thinks like a full ride, a full scholarship is a 4-year deal. It's not. It's a 1-year contract every year. And it can be not, you don't have to renew it, but you can't do it for performance reasons. Like if they're academic or code of conduct, or what we always did is we put out a code of conduct at the beginning of your head, every kid sign it. And so if one of those things was a violation, we could take the money, right? And then that tended to give you a little leverage. But when the athletic department is letting a coach do what he does because, it's flashy and people are talking about it and you're number one in the country, we go back to, if you're winning, you can get away with it. What if the 152nd ranked team in the country popped off like that? That coach would be replaced immediately.
Well, and then it gives, I just feel like the kids free reign to be able to do it because they see their coach doing it.
It's exactly what it is. It's a bad example.
Yeah.
And now they've become the villain of college baseball. But like George Steinbrenner said, even if I'm the back page of the New York Post and it's bad press, it's free press. So he's not paying for it. So there's that mentality out there is to stay relevant. You'll see certain celebrities and old athletes that'll pop off some sort of, or here's my opinion on this out of nowhere. It's ridiculous, but all of a sudden they're relevant again because they're in the news for it.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned earlier, I wanted to ask, how tough is it as a collegiate coach to make that decision of the skill set that the player's going to bring, as opposed to that mentality that they're going to bring? So like you said earlier, you have a kid call and say, hey, who's sponsoring that school? You know what I mean? So that mentality straight out the gate. But what if you know that kid is one of the top recruits in the country? How hard is it to make that choice? It's
hard early in your career, right? Because we're talking about there's so much emphasis on winning and being successful. You want the best players you can. You probably tolerate things you ordinarily wouldn't, which goes back to what we were just talking about. For me, there's a balance, right? If the scale's balanced, I'm okay with it. But if it's one way or the other, unless it's tipped towards, like, I'll take a kid who doesn't have the skill but has the attitude and work ethic, because I can help him get the skill. I can't change in the summer. I can't change his DNA, or his personality, or what his parents are feeding him, or his other coaches. Now, I do get a lot of other kids. I've had 2 or 3 kids that have just blatantly said, no, coach, I'm not going to do that because my coach at home says. I'm like, well, you're batting .075 right now. You might want to change something. And I'll have to give one kid credit after last summer, who he told me he didn't want my help hitting. He hit maybe 100 and made about 5 errors, so he saw some bench time. He came back to me in the fall after playing and said, I took your advice and I'm hitting the ball a lot better. I really appreciate it, and I'm sorry I didn't listen. And, then that made it okay.
Cool. Yeah,
it was. So somehow or another, I got enough respect from him during the season for him to do that. So, and that's the kind of reason why I still do this. There's just the random text from players. Sometimes I still have great relationships with the entire high school team, first one ever
really?
Coached. In fact, we represent one of those pitchers. And I talked to that kid 4 times a day.
That story that you told about that kid, who wasn't batting well and then decided to take your advice and so on and so forth, that's a glimpse into, we talked about this when we were recording the other episode of how rare it is for a kid in any sport to move on past college or even, to D1 or whatever the case may be to begin with. But what's happening is these life lessons. And that's one of the things when we talk about this coaching topic that I kind of wanted to get into, along with also as we get down the road here, we want to talk about your background a little bit, but these life lessons that come along with these games. And I think baseball is one of the primary ones that brings so many of them.
Yeah. I cannot argue with that one bit, because baseball is kind of a metaphor for how some things in life work. I think it's a metaphor. Is that what I'm looking for? But it's comparable to everyday life.
Sounds good.
Yeah, doesn't it? I mean, I sound like I know what I'm talking about. That's half the battle. It shadows life, right? Like you get the answers first and the test next. So what are you going to do with the answers once you get tested? And that's one thing that we ran into last year. We had a kid, Matt Keating, who was struggling at bat. He had played at Southeastern and set a record for home runs that year, lights out pitcher. That was like 97. We called him Motani because he was our guy who could hit and pitch. He was struggling one time. I just said, look, man, this is just like life. You're going to have bad days. Coach Morgan taught me this. Yesterday is a cash check. You can't spend it. Tomorrow's a promissory note. You can't spend it yet. Today's the only cash you got. Spend it wisely. So I told him that, and at the end of the season, I think he actually said something to you about that, about how we taught life lessons in this, and that's why the team did so well. So, I think that's just as important as my resume as far as the X's and O's and the mechanics of baseball, is how to communicate with these kids and what can I teach them about dealing and, like we say, failure in baseball. So.
Well, and I think baseball, maybe above all other sports, it's a straight-up mental game. Like, there's so much to it where basketball, man, you got to be athletic. You got to be able to run, jump, and have a shot. You got to work on all that stuff, don't get me wrong. But talent might be able to take you a little bit further. Where baseball, you might have less talent, but if you got it between the ears, you can go a long way. I mean, there's a number of professionals out there that are 5'10", 5'9", and you just can't have that in the NFL consistently or in the NBA.
Yeah, you can be a shot blocker, right, and get a big check.
Right.
If all I can do is field ground balls and that's it, I'm not going to make it anywhere in baseball.
And you're talking about baseball being fair and kind of being a mirror to life. There's so many facets to it, to where you do things the right way in baseball and your numbers add up and you get kind of paid off, or you get your gratitude that way. And just the way it's structured, to where you can have a pop-up, but if you put the bat on the ball, you might get an RBI out of it. So you don't get the point for getting a hit, but you still get something positive out of it. You get a run batted in. You still get a stat out of it. And I don't think there's a sport out there where it's kind of geared to, if you do things the right way, you're going to get paid off in the end.
Yeah, we had a kid in when Sonny and I were managing in the New England League up in Vermont. One of my favorite athletes of all time, David Sarmiento, played for me at Flanagan High School all 4 years and played for me all 4 years of college. Had a broken wrist, but didn't want to go home and get it fixed. He wanted to contribute any way he could, because he was the best base runner I've ever coached in my life, and he was a very good bunter. So he batted 0 on the year because we brought him in to bunt and steal bases, but he had an on-base percentage of .450, which was better than anybody on the team. One of the guys on the board just couldn't understand why I was still playing him. He's got a 0 batting average. I'm like, that doesn't matter. He gets on base 45% of the time. Well, I don't know when bat averaging. Well, maybe it does in your adult league. You guys can brag about it over beers or whatever, but, if you're competing, this is what matters.
Yeah.
And I don't get too much into the sabermetrics thing, but
right.
I am a stats guy, because I was, biomechanics and the numbers and the math and the physics type stuff. So I dig all that stuff, angles and all that. But, the statistics can help you. You can shine in so many ways without it being obvious to everybody on the, in the stands.
The stats is one of the things that I really like the most about it, because today everything is so like instant gratification. But your stats, like your batting average, that is the culmination of, however long time, however many at-bats, and every single at-bat is going to have a little bit of an effect on that. And you're building that the whole time.
It's kind of like your GPA. If you mess up early,
for sure.
it makes a big impact later on.
Yeah.
If you're 0 for 2, you're 0.
Yeah.
You're 1 for 2, you're 500, right? But 100 at-bats down the road, you're right, it may make 1 point. Like, for example, we hit 14 hits yesterday in a game, but our team batting average only went up 2 points. Now, if we get all those in the first game, we're batting 750, right? But instead, we're batting 306.
Yeah, and what I mean by that is that's the lessons that it teaches is that you got to be in this for the long run, and every little single thing that you do has an effect on what that end result is, that end number you can talk about.
And it also tells you, work your strengths. If one door, the biggest thing I've found out about this generation of kids is problem solving is an issue, right? If it's not on the phone, they don't know how to do it.
Yep.
And I've gone through this sometimes with kids where they're like, I can't get in there. Well, why? Well, the door's closed. Did you try to open it? Well, it might be locked. Might be open.
Yeah.
So then it's locked. Well, it's locked. Okay, is there another door? Yeah. Did you try it? No. I mean, it's just basic problem solving 101. Yeah. Work your strengths.
Yeah.
Like I'll analyze the situation. We got 2 window panes here. We got 2 doors. We got eggshell. We got everything in here. You know what I mean? If something goes down, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Kids these days are just like, man, if I don't see it on TikTok, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's scary.
Like you said, the problem solving, work your strengths, and then by whatever experiences you're having and experiences that you're affording them as a coach, to build that confidence to be able to say, well, I'm confident enough. Let me go grab that handle and see it might work, it might not. And then let me try this. I'm confident enough to try that. So building that confidence is a huge thing with the sport as well.
And you can't be scared that you couldn't open it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a classic performance psychology called defensive pessimism. You make an excuse before you perform just in case you don't perform at a certain level.
Sure.
Like if I had a pitcher that said, Coach, I know I'm supposed to start today. I'm just letting you know my arm's a little tired because he's not confident. But then when you're up 10 runs, all of a sudden he's like, man, my arm feels great. I can go in, So my job is to learn how to interpret what they're saying, what they can or can't do, and try to help build the confidence to grab the handle, if it's closed, figure something else. Because like we said earlier, you're managing failure in baseball. And when you fail, you got to let it go. All right, let's make an adjustment. It's all about making adjustments.
Yeah, so on that particular topic, let's get into that a little bit. So your background, let's talk about your background. Where did you come up and how did you get into this?
Well, as I was growing up, I grew up in a single family or a single parent household. My mom and dad split up when I was about 1.5, so I don't really have any memories of my paternal father, biological father, but he was a high-level baseball player. So I'm guessing that's where I got my ability from. My mom was a field hockey player. She was out of New York, out of Brooklyn. So you can imagine what our conversations at home are like when she's really ticked off at me. She's the only human in my life that's ever scared me.
Really?
Yeah, it's the only human I've ever been scared of. Yeah. So up until about 4th grade, it was just my grandmother, my mom, my sister, and me. Then my mom got remarried to my stepdad, who I refer to as my father because he's been the father figure. He was a former military officer and in the corporate world at what was Wachovia back then, is now Wells Fargo. Mm-hmm. So, he was I used to refer to him as Mr. Spock. Like, that's illogical, I mean, if it didn't make sense, you didn't do it, and you got, but it was structure that I craved.
Yeah.
And I'd been the only male in the household for a long time. I was the only. So when he came, I felt threatened, and so initially we didn't get along too well.
I was just going to say, was that hard?
It was very difficult for me because I've got more of my mom's New York blood.
Yeah.
And my sister is a definite Southern Belle type. She loved it down there. We were in Illinois. My family's from New York, and we ended up in Greensboro, North Carolina, around 2nd and 4th grade, something like that. I guess a long time ago. So when she married my stepfather or my father, things changed a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And so, of course, I went through my rebellious thing for a few years where I don't have to listen to you. You're not my dad.
And you were approximately 4th grade at that point, you said?
4th grade.
Okay.
Yeah. That's when I got my first beating.
Yeah.
My first and last.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say beating because that sounds bad, like somebody's going to call Child Protective Services, but I got a spanking.
Sure.
And the next day I made an A on my math test. And so I never looked back from that point on. Now, we did still have some brush-ups here or there, but it wasn't until my athletic career initially, when I was 17 or 18, I was invited to a tryout for the Boston Red Sox. And I didn't get an offer that day. So to me, my career was over. You know, I'm 18 years old. You know, that's all I wanted to do is play baseball. What did I do? I did okay in high school. I was much smarter than my grades showed. I tested very well, but I just wanted to play baseball. So that got put on hold, you know, because I was not as big as I needed to be. You know, I was maybe 6'1", 175. And all these guys were just giants because that's back in the day where God knows what they were doing. They were all built like Canseco back then, man.
Yeah.
And
Come on, they were just lifting weights.
They worked really hard.
Wink, wink.
Heavier weights.
The trucks. And so that didn't work out. I just didn't know what to do. So I kind of, you know, I kind of had this dark period where, you know, I just went around from school to school and job to job. And I really had no direction. And, you know, I hung out with some idiots and, you know, I was getting in trouble at school. And then one day my stepfather, you know, I keep calling him my stepfather, I'm just saying my father, came up to me and just said, look, man, what do you need? What is it you need? Like really need? And I wrote a list and he had a list and we just sat down to talk and our relationship changed at that point. He was like my best friend. There was a point where he got me into baseball. You know, you think that my biological dad would get me into baseball, but he really had nothing to do with me. So anytime I did something well, I made sure I sent him the news clip, you know, just kind of throw it in his face. So I was a little bitter, you know, growing up and probably missed out on a lot of learning opportunities, hence the reason why I got cut early on. But I can't remember what grade it was, maybe 6th or 7th. I was ready to quit baseball just because, you know, I didn't like somebody on the team or something kids do. Yeah. And he sat me down and said, man, you signed up for this. You finish what you start. You don't quit anything. You made a commitment. A commitment is important, blah, 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 and went through it. And I said, all right, had he not done that, I wouldn't be here today. Sure. I wouldn't have done anything. So I owe everything to that guy, you know, and he's, you know, he worked his tail off, you know, and I came up with a family where I never knew what my parents made. We didn't have those discussions. I just knew they provided well. And, you know, we didn't have like country club memberships or anything like that. But, you know, they taught me, here's how you save money. Here's how you do this. This is how you do that. I got my whole entire business acumen from my dad. And, you know, I can't thank him enough for it. But there was a rough patch there for a long time where I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I look back at those moments, and those are the turning points in my life where I either could have been a thug, you know, and I might not be alive right now. Yep. Or, you know, I could be a responsible citizen and help other people not make the mistakes I did. Yeah. And that's baseball in a nutshell. Hey, you made a mistake. Let me help you not make that next time. Make this adjustment. Like we were saying, it's all about adjustments. So my whole life upbringing was just making adjustments. And
that's you really put it together there well. You know, kind of getting back to what you were saying as the life lessons that from all sports, but especially baseball. You know, your dad used baseball as kind of a vessel, right? I mean, that's kind of what I got out of that.
Well, he initially probably put me in it so I wouldn't get in trouble until he knew where I was. But from the get-go, I wanted to be a catcher, you know, because I have that what we call like the Russian wrestling aptitude where, you know, in Russia back in the days, they would take the kids that ran into the wall head first that are 7, like he's going to the wrestling academy. You know, he's going And I was that kid that just like, yeah, put me back there. I'll play. People going to run into me. That's cool, you know. And it really taught me a lot about, and you hate to like drop the word tough, you know, be tough, be whatever. You can be tough in a lot of ways without being a jackass, right? Just because you're bellicose and you puff your chest up to somebody doesn't mean you're tough. Being tough is how to handle the locked door when there's another door. Being tough is being able to express what's going on, or if you've got a problem without overreacting, right? Without giving up, stuff like that. To me, that's what tough is. Yeah. I really learned how to be tough through my experiences, and you know, my father was a big part of that. And of course, my mom, like I said, she's from Brooklyn. She was born tough.
That's just the way it is there. Yeah.
I think so the story that you're telling there, what I find most interesting about that is there's kind of a lot of debate in the country right now with the involvement and the importance of the father figure. And you touched on it. You said you came up until 4th grade in a single parent household, and your mom probably did really, really well. But
Excellent job.
But without that father figure having come in and starting to imply, to put on you the things that he brought, you would have a completely different life right now. And you said, who knows what it would have been, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, obviously moms bring something to the table that nobody can replace. Mm-hmm. But if there's not a dad in there kind of laying those rules down, being supportive, showing you the way, what ends up happening, who knows?
Absolutely. There's a joke with my closest friends that the over-under on me was 40 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm on house money right now. I'm enjoying life.
Yeah. There you go.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
I have Wayne Price to thank for that.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that, and that story is so common, and I don't think people talk about it enough.
Some of the probably the most flattering comments or compliments, I guess, that I've gotten from players is like when they reference me being a father figure, mm-hmm. or athletes. I've had female athletes that have said, you're a father figure to me. That is to me probably is bigger than any ring, any trophy, anything. If somebody considers you to be that influential,
mm-hmm.
yeah,
and they're not my kids,
yeah.
Then I don't care what my record is. I win.
Yep. 100%. So you came up. You were in baseball, like you said. You
didn't make the Red Sox. I'm like dying to know then what.
Yep, didn't make the Red Sox. So then you started going around and bouncing. You said bounce between jobs, trying to find your way.
And teams, independent leagues, Europe, everything. My most embarrassing moment was with the Red Sox when I was taking BP one time before I was released. And I hit a ball further than I've ever hit it in my life at 175 pounds. This is a major league park, right? Mm-hmm. Or major league size park. And I'm just watching it, what now they would say pimping it, but I was just watching it. And I remember the third base coach, and this was practice, say, hey, 25, turn around, we'll measure it later. And then everybody just laughed. And that's when I got my first, real baseball locker room experience. You know what I mean? I'm like, what does he mean?
Little
Measure
humble
it,
pie.
Yeah.
Little humble pie.
I was just sitting here celebrating the longest hit of my life, and they're making fun of it. Long fly ball. I decided, well, hey, I need to go to school. So I went to school, and I got a degree in kinesiology. And
explain that. I'm not familiar.
Physiology and kinesiology is study of human movement. You can either go on the pedagogy side or the education side, like phys ed, or you can get into biomechanics and stuff like that, which is basically physics of human movement type stuff. And that's what's always interested me is I want to know how I did what I did. Mm-hmm. I wanted the endocrinology background. I wanted the biomechanical background. I wanted to know what I can eat to make me a better athlete. I want to know how to train myself because I'm coming back. I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. So I got recentered and got in there and did just the opposite of high school and then smoked it. Pulled like a 3.8. I was president of the Kinesiology Students Association. I got 6 different offers from graduate schools. I ended up going back to Indiana where I started and finished a master's degree in a year and a half. Was Dean's List. Was nominated for part of my deal with Indiana is I was on full scholarship there. I would teach 3 different classes a week, and they would pay me a stipend, and I'd get free scholarship, and then do my degree stuff and work. I was also still training in baseball with Coach Morgan, and I was still swimming competitively. So I was getting up in the morning at 5, training, teaching class, going to baseball, going to bed, repeat. Days off, go to bed, and then and in order to feed myself, I had to work with the rest of the athletes. I didn't have to, but this was the greatest deal in town. If you worked in the kitchen at a sorority, you got to eat there for free. So I'll never forget, one of my teammates and I were on pan duty. We would just wash dishes twice a day, and we get to eat 3 times a day. I bought groceries once in
Indiana. Come on. You're leaving out. You got to see the pretty girls.
It's
a sorority.
I go to plead the fifth on that.
Okay.
Might have been a little bit of that.
They don't usually hang out in the kitchen,
Well, right.
But you invite them to the game.
But we did have lunch time and dinner time.
And teaching as a grad school, you got a lot of offers to eat. at because
Yeah.
students were always trying to win over their professor or whatever, or their graduate teacher. So I got a lot of free lunches and a lot of free food, and that was like the best time of my life.
There's so many of those kinds of things that happen in college. We did an interview with one of my buddies
Nick?
last week, Nick,
Yeah.
and we were talking about the college days and those kinds of things. And he said the same kind of thing. He was like, "Man, I went and got a RA job because I got to eat for free and I got to stay there for free." And that's what college kids. That's where the mentality is. It's like, where am I going to get my next meal? Because I don't have a lot of money.
I mean, we were talking about this last week. How $20 right now for any one of us is probably like, it doesn't even buy me a couple gallons of gas,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
$20 to a college student is still $20. So last week when we weren't hitting very well, I had my team come in Saturday and we played a little line drive game off the tees. And if you hit one above one line, you're out, or below another, you're out. And the last one standing gets $20. Man, you would have thought it was the World Series.
They were into
It was man, and
Bats came to
we have
life.
been banging it up ever since then. So
That's
basically,
awesome.
it cost me $20 to get these
Yeah.
guys to
Shoot.
hit right. So we're going to do it again this Saturday and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the whole college thing for me, it's I'm a big structure freak. I block things off of my calendar. I do this thing. I have to know, my keys are in the same place every day, or I don't know where they are. I just and that comes from my dad too. That's and my brother's former military. So, we have that structure, and I love it. My mom's more of an artist. She was a rare book dealer, special collections librarian. So she created the whole special collections thing at University of North Carolina, Greensboro. So I actually got to hold like a Gutenberg Bible and look at a book by Ben Franklin about
Wow.
swimming and stuff like
Cool.
that. Yeah. Plus I had a really cool place to study when I was on campus because nobody
Yeah.
could find me there in our office. But she was very artistic and still, paints and sells paintings and stuff. And then my dad was bank, accounting, military.
Yep.
So I had both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So no matter where I landed in there, I was going to be okay.
Opposites attract, right?
Right. Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt. So you're hanging out in the sorority kitchen.
Yeah. Washing pots, man.
Washing pots.
Washing pots.
That's it. That's it.
That's it. That's all you're doing.
And teaching, teaching classes and Indiana University was probably the greatest experience of my life. Then I got a coaching job I was a GA at Indiana, at the University of South Carolina. So I packed up, moved to South Carolina. It was closer to North Carolina where everybody was. And you can't turn down a Division I job. They're hard to get. It's almost like making pro ball. And for me, I was like, I didn't get to the major leagues. The odds are in my favor here. I got the job. I got to take it. So I went there and I was there for 2 years. Then I went to NC State and I coached there for a year. And then I got tired of being poor, honestly, because I was the lowest paid assistant coach in the SEC. I've had great, I got to coach in the Big Ten, the SEC, and the ACC. That's 3 of the Big 5.
Jeez, yeah.
Right? That is the life experience. Once I got the ACC notched off, I wasn't particularly happy in the position I was there. So I started and this is where it gets really fun, a commercial swimming pool management business. So I had 3 partners. They were all former swimmers. We kind of knew each other from the aquatics thing. And this new business was kind of a niche thing that was kind of getting popular. So basically what we do is we would manage, say, a homeowners association pool or a community pool or a city pool or a country club or a natatorium. And we would say, for one fee, we'll manage this thing the entire season. That includes insurance, it includes chemicals, lifeguards, training, uniforms, blah, 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 blah. So it takes it off you. You make 6 payments throughout the season, and you don't have to worry about it. And we cover you with this inordinate amount of insurance in case anything happens. Well, 10 years later, we have 800 pools across the country in 16 cities. So I go back to playing baseball. I hire a guy to run my part of it. My 3 partners are in Atlanta and Charlotte. And I'm in the Midwest. I'm back to Indianapolis. I'm playing baseball in Indy. Then I go to Columbus. I'm playing baseball in Columbus. I blow my Achilles. And that's the end of it. So then I was like, man, I sold the company after I blew the Achilles because I wanted to get back into baseball. And so I sold out over the course of 3 years and officially retired and then started this 224 and started coaching. And so here I am. I think it was 2011. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an orthodox path, because I really enjoyed business, and that taught me a lot as well of just day-to-day running. If you're president of a business, you're accountable for everything. Every dollar that was spent is 40 cents out of my pocket.
Yep.
Right. So you tend to look at things a little differently when you're buying, so I did everything creative I could, put all the chemicals on the Amex so I get all those points,
Sure.
so I get free flights, and stuff like that. You get really creative.
Yep.
And that kind of translates into game IQ and managing, how can I get him
Being
to
creative.
hear? Absolutely. It gets
Yeah.
your creativity thing, and it helped expose my creativity, and I think that's translated into my baseball career and coaching career.
What do you think, I want to talk about your business a little bit, but what do you think got you to make the decision to become an entrepreneur, to start that business around the pools?
My athletic experience, because you don't make any money competitive swimming, right? Until Michael Phelps rolled around. He's worth $100 million, but he was way after me and way faster than me. And then minor league baseball, we weren't even getting paid minimum wage back then until they passed this new federal law. And even right now, you're making anywhere from $9,800 to $14,700 a season, regardless of what level you are. So it's minimum wage. And then you got to go back and train and find another job. I got tired of that. I said, if I'm going to advance my career to get to the spot where I want to get to, either athletically or as a leader, a coach, I got to take a different path.
Yeah.
Right. And, I'm not going to be a head coach in Division I unless I'm an assistant coach for 20 years and somebody either retires or drops dead or takes a better job, and, I'm not going to wait that long. What can I do right now? So I basically, financed my first year in the business on my credit cards,
Okay.
and went through it just having enough confidence and knowing I'm going to turn this thing into something huge.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I was making more than I ever thought I could make in my lifetime. I mean, more than I would playing pro ball.
Yeah.
So it worked out very well for me. So I reached my financial goals athletically through business.
Sure.
I got my leadership goals now because of the business. And it all goes back to, training, having a good father figure and strong parents and, not letting me quit.
That support.
I don't know how to quit.
Dude,
Yeah.
we've had a couple of risk takers on the show recently because Nick said the same thing. Like, I was stuck there. I knew I had to make a move.
Yeah.
He just put it all on the credit card.
He did,
Remember
yeah.
I thought the same thing.
It's a motivator, when you don't have any other way, you're like, man, I got to make that payment now.
Yeah.
I got to do something, and I'm not going to rob a bank.
We talked about that too.
Well, the guys with lots of tattoos are usually the first ones identified.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Not my career choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and then that's the difference. You talk about the credit cards and so on and so forth. Like, you're willing to take on that debt, but it's not because you're a deadbeat, like because you don't think you have to pay it off. It's because you have to pay it off, and you're going to figure it out.
You're more
Absolutely.
confident that you can.
Yeah, and it takes a certain personality and certain training, like I'll go back to parents, to have that type of attitude of I'll figure it out.
For sure.
I don't care what it is. I'm going to figure it out.
Yep.
And that's one reason why I like stuff like this and like I do the TV broadcasts, because I'll figure it out. There's a question. I'm never going to be uncomfortable with a question that anybody asks me.
Yep.
I'll figure it out.
Yep. One other thing I want to touch on, I think you might have something, Andy, but in what you were saying there is the mentality of I don't want to wait anymore. Like I want to make this happen. I want to live my life. I want to move forward. I don't, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I know this is how I felt in the past, and maybe this is how you felt, where you're just looking at it and you're going, man, 10 years from now, if I stay on this path that I'm on right now, here's what I'm going to have to show for this, and it's not something I'm going to be happy about. So I need to get it going right now.
Yes, and there are two type of mentalities when you say that is the type of person that can see big picture and make a plan and stick to it and be patient enough, because now we're in an era of what have you done for me lately? Instant gratification, like the kids saying, who sponsors your school?
Yeah.
What can I get now? If I can't get it now, I quit. If I don't get playing time, I quit. My whole mentality, and again, it goes back to my parents and everything, and my experiences are, you make a commitment, you make a plan, you have, you've got a goal, you have to make objective, accomplishable, small steps, that challenge you. And if you keep checking those, you check 2 or 3 or 4 of those off, your confidence goes up every time. And that's what I did. I did it for me. I said, I'm going to do this all by myself. Of course, I had a good support group, but
Right.
I didn't depend on anybody. I didn't call home to mommy and daddy and say, can you loan me $50,000? I'm going to start a business.
And this is when you were single?
Yes.
You're married now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've only been
All this
married
pool
5
stuff.
years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was funny, a story. Well, we can get into wife stories later. But yeah, I
No,
was
you can get
single,
into
and another really strong influence in my life was my grandmother on my biological father's side. I think she was always trying to make up for him not being around.
Yeah.
So there was a point where when I got released from baseball, I came back. I lived with her because she was closer to campus, and I was broke, and so I was going to school and living with her, and she was like the greatest roommate I ever had, She was like 45, 55 years older than me. So we had a great relationship, just a saint. And she dropped out of school in 6th grade, started working.
Wow.
Because back then, that's what you did in her family, and she worked for Wrangler for her entire career and worked her way up to be like in charge of some department with a 6th grade education.
Mm-hmm.
And if that doesn't motivate you,
Yeah.
when you're around that on a daily basis, when she told me you're working too much, you got 3 jobs and you're going to school, you need to drop something. And that's not a request, that's an order. I'm like, gee, man, Sergeant Kling over here, But I mean, again, I've been really lucky to have some very positive influences in my life, and it wasn't always, puppies and pillows.
Yeah.
It was like, you have to learn your lesson. We're going to let you fall down.
Yeah.
We're not going to catch you. And and I am either too proud or too stubborn to go back home and say, this is what I need or whatever. I want to do it on my own. And that's always been the way I am.
Yeah. That's
And
great.
I don't regret a second of it.
Yeah.
And that's how then 224. I mean, you just
Yeah, I saw
Or
something that I didn't
let's
agree
go.
with. I said, man,
Do it better.
yeah. I mean, we were talking earlier that, when you do something successfully, you create an environment that's ripe for competition, right?
Sure.
If I'm running pools really well, people see there's money in that industry, they're going to start one. But are they going to do it as well as I do? The whole premise behind 224 is, before I even started it, I worked on it for 2 years. Because when I came out with this, and we just recently patented some training products that we have full patents on for throwing and catching and all this that we've been developing and creating, and I'm really proud of that. If you plan it and you stick to it and you have a certain standard, it doesn't matter if you have competition, because you've got a product. It's going to take anybody else 3 years to get where we are now if they started right now. So we got a 3-year jump. That's kind of what I wanted. So I wasn't even getting paid by myself the first 2 or 3 years I started this company. Everything came out of my pocket. If I traveled, if I spoke at clinics, if I developed the whole development of the product, it comes out of my pocket, So hopefully when we go to production, I'll get paid back.
Right.
But that's part of the goal. I didn't quit because a patent's $10,000.
and you
Well,
have people
it
competing
up.
now. I mean, seeing what you're doing and
it's kind of funny. We've had actually 2 of the guys that we actually used for some of our evaluations go, oh man, I'm going to do this. And then they went and it was this disaster.
oh jeez.
Because, I can do it and make more money by not doing this. Well, the whole reason we got the contract is because this is what we offer. And it's our reputation. And one year we lost the big contract to one of our competitors. He was a former partner of ours. We lost it to him, and he did such a crap job. The next year they came back to us, and I jacked it up 20%.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if you want us, you can have us, but here's our cost, here's our price. Because last year we spent some money developing the program for you for your presentation to the board and everything, and that takes man hours, and you chose to go the other way, even though we told you what you're getting into, and now you're coming back. So then, because I like those people, we struck a cool deal with them where one of them had a super nice condo in town we could stay in instead of getting a hotel, and that would take it down a little bit. So, we managed to finagle a pretty good deal out of that one.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit about what all you guys do at 224.
It's become, it first started off like I was talking about earlier, is just coaching, virtual coaching, clinics, going and running clinics, speaking at things like the National High School Baseball Coaches Association. But then it turned into pitching and catching. Then it turned into talent evaluation for leagues. Then it turned into safety education for coaches on the field. Then it turned into coaching education. Well, I keep adding. I don't say turn into. Then we added coaches education, where we'll run practices for youth coaches and then provide them the template on our site. They have a password, and they can go in and they can say, okay, Monday's practice, we're going to do this. These are the drills, blah, 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 blah. And then we get into player drafts, and then, we patented some the training materials that we've come up with. And now, talent talent management, so professional athletes and now NIL work. So I keep
like ever evolving. Is
well,
kind of what
I think
it
you
is.
have to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've had to evolve as a coach. So if COVID taught us one thing is how to evolve a business. Right now, my business wasn't that affected, except for baseball was canceled for 2 years, so we couldn't actually go and do physical stuff. But we learned how to do virtual stuff. We worked on our patent. We expanded into stuff where we don't have to be present, like talent management. And now that that's all set up and everything's back to pretty much full bore, we benefit from it. We just got smarter from it. So
I think that's the story of successful small businesses is you set out to do something and you're doing it, and then you see something come along and you have to evaluate, is that something that we want to add? Is that something that can be beneficial? Is that something that can help us grow? And you make that decision and you do it or you don't. And those decisions that you make kind of paint the picture of that business, and it sounds like that's what you guys have seen.
Yeah, and then going back to baseball, not being too boring about this or repeating myself, it's about making adjustments.
Yeah.
It applies to my coaching, just like the business, We were one of the few leagues the first COVID year to actually go off. Like most of them weren't going. But after some meetings with the mayor and some protocol that Joe and Terry Sissel and I came up with, they approved us to play. And, we had to clear everybody else's stands and sanitize them, and we had to keep only the starting lineup in the dugout, everybody else outside, stuff like that. I bought a big gallon jug of hand sanitizer and put, our logo as a pig in mud and put that on there.
The filth ballers.
Yeah.
Right.
Clean your hands, filth ballers. So, and I'll be, and some things about your life change from that. Like, now I do more dapping than handshaking.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
I still have 4 bottles of sanitizer in my car and every workout bag I have. You kind of get a little germaphobic sometimes, but and especially baseball players, and God knows where their hands have been. You know what I mean? They're always adjusting and wiping their hand. I'm like, I don't want. I'm like, bro, I'll hug you before I shake that hand. I saw you.
You're so nasty.
That's funny.
Now, on my side of it, that's the whole reason I got in touch with Johnston Hobbs and the Corn Belt League as a whole, because I help with a lot of programming and setting schedules. And I developed a relationship because I'm a baseball guy. I love baseball. And so I wanted to see more of it on the station. And plus, we needed sports content throughout the summer. So I set a schedule with the American Legion and a lot of American Legion teams around here. And they were great coaches, great teams. And then 2020 rolled around, and the American Legion from the top down said, no games. It's over. So I'm sitting here, with my pants around my ankles, like, oh my God, my whole schedule's gone. And then the commissioner sent something out our way and just came across my desk. Corn Belt League, what in the hell is this? Oh, wow, okay, this might be something. And Joe's like, yeah, hell with it, we're going to play. And these kids wanted to play, so you guys got a ton of really good talent in from across the nation and the state of Nebraska. So it fit us like a glove because, as we mentioned before, a lot of these kids play for like Doane University or Wayne State College, and we already do their basketball and football games throughout the other seasons.
And look at you now. You won the corn on the cob eating
God,
contest
never
last year,
gonna-
July 4th.
I'm never going to
Wait,
live that down.
tell us. I don't know what you're talking
Well,
about.
we had a corn on the cob eating contest at our All-Star game, like
Okay.
like 7th-inning stretch type thing. And so, he represented NCN, and then we had some overzealous kids out there whose eyes are a little bit bigger than their
This
stomachs,
little
I think.
skinny Andy right
Oh,
here.
he tore it up,
Smashed
man.
it.
I mean, it was scary. It was damn near savage.
How many did you eat?
It was just who could eat one the fastest.
Oh, one the fastest in all of the kernels.
And I was like a typewriter
Yeah.
man. Just
Yeah, he definitely had thought about this.
Oh, yeah.
He had
So
it
you
going
didn't
on.
spin it. You went
no,
back
and forth like a typewriter. And don't go ching and then back. No, just back. Don't waste any time.
Oh.
I look like a 1940s, 1950s cartoon, of
Do
like,
we have a video of this somewhere?
There is
it
video
won't die.
somewhere.
It won't leave me alone. It just keeps circulating on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's on the cover page of the Corn
Yeah,
Belt
if you
League
go
on
to
their website.
cornbeltleague.com, you'll see a little
Ben,
snippet
pull
on our
that up.
season
I can't.
video.
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
You shouldn't be
hilarious.
ashamed of that. I mean, did they give you a trophy?
Well, you got to wear the corn cob hat.
Okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
So it protrudes like 3 feet off your head. And he was
Oh,
doing the
man.
broadcast of that for a little while.
So we went out afterwards for some drinks and celebratory stuff, because it was after the All-Star game, and my phone starts lighting up, and I'm getting text messages from all my old buddies, college, high school. I'm like, what's going on here? And they saw that highlight that got tweeted out. I didn't know it at the time, but yeah, they're all flipping me shit for winning.
A true Nebraska kid.
There
But
you
you
go.
know, it could be worse. It could be a worse video of you out there than winning a competition.
That
So
is
lost.
true.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's good.
Is that on your resume?
it needs to be. I need to update that.
I mean, we got a picture. You just put it on there. It's worth 1,000 words.
And then, Coach Hobbs is actually he was the color analysis for those couple of innings.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, he got his jabs in too. I'm never going to live it down. So.
Well, I'm really lucky because there's at least one game a year where NCN lets me do the color for the game.
Do you enjoy it?
Oh, I love it. Like and I talked to Andy about this. It really, I'm struggling internally with, is it more fun than coaching?
Oh.
Because I love to talk baseball. If you haven't picked up on that yet, I spend 2 hours of your time. But particularly with those guys, you know, they're the announcers, very kind of, and then I just don't care.
Right.
You know, I'm like, oh man, that was a horrible play. That guy just absolutely biffed that. You know, and I'll get texts from my friends going, man, you're killing that kid, and I don't realize it, but it's my coach going, oh man, you should have turned your glove over. You know.
That's got to be worth something. Someone's got to pick you up.
Well, I mean, I got to get I got to get these guys to help promote my brand for once instead of me promoting everybody else's.
There we go.
Right.
Yeah. And we got great production guys in the truck, so where if Coach Hobbs gets too colorful with his we can bleep it out.
There's a dump button on there. I think last year it was really funny. There's this one hitter coming up, Bobby Morganson. Remember him from Florida Atlantic?
Okay.
Kid was a slugger. He either struck out or hit it out of the park. He was leading the league in home runs. And I was upstairs, and I said, if you throw this, he just swung and missed on an outside pitch. And I said, now look, here, if you're a pitcher, the last thing you want to do is throw this kid an inside pitch. You're an idiot if you throw him an inside pitch. Because if you do, he will put it out of the park. Next pitch was inside, he hits it out of the park, and the producer hits the button in my ear and goes, well, you called that one.
Yeah. It's pretty good as a color announcer when you can call it. You know, you call it before it actually happens. It's like,
Yeah.
Well, the funniest part is when you guys will ask me, you know, when Sonny's on the mound in a little huddle, what's he saying in there right now?
Oh, God.
And I'm like, well, let me think about this real quick.
yeah, nothing I can say over the air, but
That's great.
that's good stuff. It's real good stuff, and it kind of opens the door a little bit, or lets you see inside as an audience, seeing that perspective from a coach, not just me who played the game, who loves the game. I never coached at that level, so it gives you a whole nother perspective, which I think also adds to the broadcast.
Yeah, and I think as parents, bringing kids up in sports and stuff like that, our conversations are always with other parents, and the coaches, we get to know them and we're buddies with them and stuff like that, but there's still kind of that relationship, like there's that barrier between that relationship. You don't get too close, I think that's by design. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting to really sit down and talk with a coach and see how they think and how their mind works, and just gives you a whole another level of respect from the parent standpoint, from the sidelines.
Yeah.
I actually welcome that. I'll tell my players, if your parents have legitimate questions. Now, I'm not the coach to email complaining that your kid doesn't get playing time.
Yeah.
I'll just hit the delete button and we'll go no further than that. And I tell them the first day, I'm going to tell you, you're all adults. If you have an issue, come talk to me as an adult. Maybe you see something I don't. Maybe you make a great argument. I got 25 of you to manage. I may miss something. And when you put that expectations out there early, and hey guys, it's not just about the record here. It's about you leaving healthy, getting a good experience, getting better, obviously, but also being a better person type thing. I have much more conversations with parents about the game and how I got there than I've ever had in complaints. So something's working well there, right? I don't know exactly what it is that we're doing that's doing that or in what order. But I love having those conversations. I actually welcome them because I'll sit down and talk about it all day long.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, man, based on the conversations that we've had today, I am not surprised whatsoever of the success that you're having.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think you really bring a lot to coaching, and it's such an important job, like we talked about, like that father figure. I mean, you have so much influence on so many young men and women. Mm-hmm. It's just great, to see folks like you involved in it.
I appreciate that. I look at it as a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And I'm been very blessed. To be able to get the opportunities I've had and make the most of them. And I think it's maybe a little selfish, but I'm reaching a level that I didn't reach in my professional career. So my whole idea is let me the potential that I didn't get a chance to exercise at a professional level, I can as an athlete, I can do as a coach.
Yeah.
And I'm getting more and more at peace with I have more to offer as a leader than I did as a player. And that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
But I'm making some progress, and there's your therapy session.
There we go.
I like
There we
it.
go.
Let me ask one more question. So at 224, what do you see that maybe you don't offer now or have now that could come up?
Oh man!
Or do you just want to not tell us because you don't want someone to copy you?
We got a couple things.
Okay,
couple
so you got
irons in the fire. Yeah.
But the NIL stuff is the new.
The new thing
really
is the
helping.
NIL
Okay.
stuff, and right now, until the rules change, like I said, it's the wild, wild west right now.
Yeah.
So we have to really dot our I's and cross our T's legally to make sure that we're doing the right thing by our athletes. So the last thing I want a kid to do is trust me with their NIL and we make a mistake
Yeah.
and then they lose eligibility.
Yeah.
That would hurt me personally more than it would professionally. So, now's my vacation time. We were talking earlier about my family, and last year they did come out here. Hopefully they'll come out again this
Okay,
year.
that's what I was gonna say. Are they gonna come and visit?
Yeah.
Everyone loves Omaha in June. Come
I
on
mean-
now.
Well, Omaha is
Are you
very
gonna-
similar to Raleigh.
CWS? Are you going or what?
Yeah, part of my deal is I get CWS tickets, when I come back.
shucks, you know.
And I enjoy
I'm
it.
kidding.
But
Well-
on the championship weekend, I will be leaving. My niece is getting married in Greenville, South Carolina. So I'm flying out Saturday morning at 5:41 a.m. to make a 5 p.m. wedding to turn around and leave Sunday morning to come back so I don't miss any games.
Okay, I was just gonna say.
My mom and dad think
wow.
I'm nuts. They're like, and my wife, it was hilarious about baseball, not a fan, will be like, can't you just miss a game? I'm like, no, you don't get it. I remember I went to a Red Sox game to see one of the kids that played for us, and it was a noon game before they were leaving for London to play the Yankees. So I went to the day game. I had a day off from here. I flew up there to see him play, and my wife was going to try to make it, but she couldn't. She goes, well, can't you just tell him to play the game tomorrow? Chris, that's not how it works.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And she's a genius. Don't get me wrong; she's brilliant, but she's a corporate mind. And
Yeah.
I'm a down in the dirt, kind of on the floor type.
Yeah.
So it makes, like you said, opposites kind of attract.
So were you pumped to see Notre Dame after 20
I
years?
was, because Notre
or-
Dame's from Indiana.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was bruised, and plus I just wanted to beat Tennessee. I think I'm
Hey,
more
we
happy.
lived in Tennessee,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I was bummed because we have friends a lot of times that come
Sure,
in,
yeah.
but to the point of talking about how the coaching was and just some other things that I didn't fully know. Whatever. I'm always a underdog rooter.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
love it. So when they said they hadn't been here,
47.
Oh, I thought they said
It's
20
It's their
something.
third appearance all time.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
been a
even
while.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
And there's another unranked team, and there's like 2 or 3.
Ole
of them.
Miss.
Ole Miss, yeah.
I mean, their coach was going to get fired like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now he's playing for a
Okay.
championship.
See, that's fun.
Well, unless they extend that contract, you don't know, man.
Yeah.
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Right.
I mean, the Florida State coach just got fired.
Yeah.
And they won they got through the ACC championship and made it, and then they canned him.
And
So.
selfishly, as a Husker fan, I love that because one of the best players, high school players out of the state, committed to Florida State as a sophomore or freshman in high school. And now with that in the air, and maybe
Yeah.
we got a shot again. Maybe that
Yeah.
recruitment opens back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Hobbs, go talk to the young man.
I'll see what I can do.
Well, Andy, let you get into
Well,
what else we got going
Yeah,
on
well,
here.
what do we got here? This is your
This is mine.
table. This is
Okay.
the little speakeasy here.
All right. Well, Coach, just to kind of close it out, definitely appreciate having you. Appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a lot going on and coming on our podcast. It's been fun. And to show our appreciation, we've got a couple of folks that we work with that we just want to talk about a little bit. So sitting here at this table that you're sitting at, one of my buddies built this. It's kind of a cool little setup. This company that we know makes these flags. Charred Chisel is the name of the company. You can find them online. So they make these cool flags for us. But what we did with this table is we've got this little hidden compartment.
Boom.
We
So
got some
we'll
James
open this
Bond
up.
stuff in here.
Look at this.
Oh, hello. There's my friend.
So
I was commenting how much I liked the logo on the table before
Yeah.
you even came in here.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
pretty
it.
cool, and it's even cooler now that you know what's going
I
on.
mean,
with it.
the stock just went out the roof. On this.
You might have to run and grab us a couple more cups real quick,
Okay.
if you would.
Yeah. We always forget that.
I know we do. So two things. There's two other companies that we work with that have been really great to us, and we've had one of these guys on, this Cooper's Chase vodka and bourbon. Doug Trainer. These guys are in West Point is where they make this. So West Point, Nebraska. So these are liquors distilled from Nebraska grains.
Oh,
Local stuff.
I love it.
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna give that a little try.
and Nebraska just keeps on impressing me.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
And then number 2, it gets even better. So these copper mugs, go ahead and grab one of those.
Oh man, those are nice.
This is made by a company also in Nebraska called Handlebend in O'Neill. So these guys hand make these things, 100% copper mugs, hand make them, put them all together. They do a bunch of different things. The mugs, they do straws, they do big cups, all kinds of things. So it's just kind of cool company we work with.
There's some mass to this
These
thing
things
right
are
here.
solid.
From a
Heavy.
physics standpoint, I like
That's
this.
a real one. You can tell because it's so heavy.
Yeah. And furthermore, so those guys, in working with those guys, what they've done is they've given us these sets. So these are for our guests.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
no way.
Yep. So what you've got there is what you're seeing with these. They custom made the size of these so that they'd fit in our little compartment here. Those ones are quite a bit bigger.
So you knew me. You heard about me before I got here.
Yeah. So that's a pretty cool setup. Handlebend, handlebend.com. People can buy directly from them if they like to. But you can see they do a great job with the packaging.
Yeah, I'll have to definitely check this out. This has got Christmas present list written
Right?
all over
All
it.
day, yeah. And it's kind of this cool little crate, and the only way you can get it open is with the
With the
crowbar that they send. Yeah.
So you got to work for it.
Yes,
I like
you
it.
do.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
This is just like my mantra in baseball. You got to work for it.
That's right.
There we
Yep.
go.
Yep. So when you get the opportunity to get home, you can open those up and check them out. But that's a gift from us and Handlebend to you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and with or without the gift here, it was a lot of fun. And anytime I can sit down and talk about the cool things that are going on around here and my experiences, I'm more than willing to do so. So thank
Heck
you very
yeah.
much, all
Yeah.
three of you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you like bourbon or vodka better?
The problem is I like both,
Yeah.
but since we're going, I will probably, I would change it up and go bourbon today.
Okay. All
There
right.
we go.
Yeah.
There we
Now
go.
every one of my friends that's going to hear this is going, $100 says vodka. $100 says vodka.
Ben loves the bourbon. Loves it.
I'm definitely a brown liquor bourbon guy.
See, I'm a vodka guy.
Yeah.
Just because there's not a lot of calories in it. And,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're training
Sure, you're
for a
thinking
fight,
about it that
you
way.
gotta-
Yep. Yep.
Like every one of these drinks is an extra 400
For
sit-ups.
sure. For sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
we gotta get a hold of Doug and get some more bourbon here.
Oh,
We do,
shoot.
man. We're getting low.
I know.
And yeah, I
It's
just,
either really tasty or you've had a lot of guests. So I'm going to guess both.
Yeah. Probably both. Yeah.
and yeah, they run. This is a small town, West Point, Nebraska, and he just runs to the local elevator and gets the grains there, and that's what he uses to distill with.
I love stories like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
you're
like
just
the-
finishing it off.
Why not? Yeah.
You
That's
don't
right.
want it to evaporate.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That low. Yeah.
No.
We got to talk to Doug.
Yeah, so it's great stuff. They do a good job. Honestly, I'm no bourbon connoisseur, but
Yeah.
I've had a bunch of different ones.
Yeah.
And this, to be completely honest with you, is one of my favorites.
Nice.
So I think you'll enjoy
Well,
it.
if he's ever looking for someone to endorse his vodka, you know the guy.
Yeah, that's right. So let's take a drink and then we'll close it out. Again,
Cheers.
thanks for coming.
Cheers. Thank you
Yep.
so much.
All right. Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah. Easy drinking.
Pretty smooth.
Really good.
Easy drinking.
Much better than a breath mint.
There we go.
This was fun.
It was.
Nice to
Yeah,
meet
man.
you,
Well,
Coach.
nice meeting you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
It's great. It's been cool doing this podcast and just the opportunities that it's afforded us to just speak with folks like you. And
Well,
drink
come
bourbon.
on out to a game sometime.
yeah,
That'd be
man,
fun.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
We'll put you in some filth baller gear.
There we
Okay,
go.
dude.
That would
you'd
be
love
so
it.
fun.
You'd love. Yeah, it's a good logo.
I make some shirts every year, some specialty shirts depending on the year. So you two guys make it out. We'll give you some
So when's your season over? Or
July 30th or 31st will be the championship game of the tournament.
okay, so we got a little time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Or you can catch us on NCN.
That's
on
Well,
right.
yeah,
Every
but I want to
Thursday
be there in
night.
person.
Yes, sir.
NCN. Yes, sir.
Okay, let us know, Andy.
We'll do. We'll do.
What
All
else,
right.
man? Got anything else?
I don't. I think we covered a lot there. It
Yep.
was a fun one.
It was. It
Super
was.
fun.
Cool. Well, let me play this outro music and we'll hit it.
Catch you
Alrighty.
later, folks.
Appreciate you guys.
Peace.
care.